All right, joining the show now, we have a guest this week, and it is a good one. I'm very interested in hearing this individual's story. He's a guy that I've chatted with. I've been looking to have on the show, and I actually have done a little expose on him on my YouTube channel. But we're going to get the story straight from the horse's mouth. Gene Borello at one point was a associate in the Bonanno Crime Family, came up in a family that was dominated really by the Mafia. He grew up in Ozone Park, ran the streets, ultimately would become a home invader, extortion artist, beat people up for the Bonanno Crime Family, all sorts of different things. We're going to get the story straight from him. Gene, how you been? How's everything going? I know you're living the straight life now. Is that correct?
Yes. By the way, thank you for having me on, Jeff. And yeah, I'm living the straight life now, and I'm running a business down here in Florida, and I'm just living regular.
Well, we don't generally do free ads on this show, but what is your business? Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a hand wash in the International Mall, and it's located in Tampa Bay area, and we basically detail cars by hand. And we get a lot of exotic cars and, nice cars.
I saw that. I saw on your Instagram you have some pretty dope cars rolling in there.
Yeah, it's all Lambos and high-end cars. We get regular cars too, but mostly guys are going to spend the money to get their exotic cars hand washed because the car wash ruins the cars, scratches it. So that's why.
Nothing worse than a car wash.
Right.
You got to get the hand wash. Shout out to you, trying to live your life the right way. But we're going to get into some of the fiery details of your life, Gene. You're still in the news nowadays, not for good always, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I want to start at the beginning with you because it's the first time we're really getting your story. You were born in the mid-'80s. By 8 or 9, your mother and father would divorce.
Yes.
Just tell me a little bit about your father. Ultimately, you would move with your mom. Tell me about your dad, though.
My dad was coming up. My dad was an armed robber. My dad did time, about a total of 10 years in prison. He was a wild guy in the street, not a mob guy, just ran the streets, did a lot of violent crimes, armed robberies, whatever. He did about 10 years, like I said, but he was a hard worker. He worked construction, worked 7 days a week to support me and my mother. He was just, like me, a head case, and... that's the truth.
Was he a good father?
Yes. Oh yeah, he was. When I was growing up, he gave me everything I wanted. He wanted me in school, but when he left, me and my mom went to Ozone Park, and he ultimately went to Canada.
So you moved to Ozone Park, and as we know, Ozone Park is a mob haven, right? But by this
when I was there, yes.
Yeah, but by this point, once you leave Brooklyn, you go to Queens. Ozone Park, Howard Beach had been dominated by the Gotti family for years. Their reign was kind of ending, but the Gambinos are still very powerful. You've mentioned the Carrazzos were big around there. You obviously, Vinny Asaro, Bonanno Crime Family, he was in that area.
Right.
What was the lay of the land like at that point?
Yeah, Nicky Carrazzo, Vinny Asaro, pretty much. Right. You said it perfectly. That was the guys that pretty much ran the area.
What was the first crime you committed?
Assaults when I was younger, when I was like 15, 16.
What do you mean by that? Were you beating people up? Were you robbing people? What do you mean?
Not robbing. I didn't do armed robbery until I got a little older, but I was doing just fighting. We would hit people with weapons and things like that. Growing up, we caught an assault case. I actually caught an assault case with a wise guy's son, Brother. You never heard of Brother, a Gambino soldier? He was his son, and me and his son beat up a guy with a weapon. We got an assault case, gang assault. Then I had another assault case. I had like 3 assault cases before I caught the kilo cocaine charge when I was 18.
So I want to kind of quickly just ask about your childhood a little bit. I'll ask you this, yes or no. If your father, let's say, stays around, your mother and father don't get divorced, do you think you would go into the life that you ultimately went into?
No, he was strict. My dad was school.
So you would probably say that in a way, and I've noticed this with most of the people I talk about, and if you really look into most criminals, a lot of them don't have great fathers or father at all at home. Now, you had a good father. You just knew that your mother probably wasn't going to discipline you like he would.
Right.
But I'm curious, your uncle, or at least a very close family member to you, was Fat Andy Ruggiano, who was very high up in the Gambino crime family. Did you know, as a kid, who these people were and what they were doing?
Yeah. I mean, when I got to a certain age, yeah. And a lot of people don't know that John Gotti said on a wiretap that if Fat Andy wasn't in jail, he'd make him his underboss. He wasn't even to pick Sammy and them. He says, I would have made Andy my underboss.
Yeah, he's a very powerful guy.
Right.
Did they ever try to say to you, hey, this ain't the right life for you? I know that Fat Andy had the son who ultimately went into the life also, and he kind of was told the story before that his father was just like, look, if you want to do this, you can do it. You just have to,
No, his father wanted him in the life. Yeah, his father's that kind of guy. That's all he believed in. He's like a Vinny Asaro. Like Vinny always told me, keep recruiting. He used to tell me to recruit people. He used to go, I want this thing to keep going. That's how they are, the old school guys.
So would you say when you were 13, 14, 15, would you say that did you want to do that? Is that the goal you had? You wanted to be in that life?
Yeah, somewhat. I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit you, like somewhat, but it's like I didn't think it would really be reality. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I wanted to do that, but did I ever think I'd really be in part of the Mafia? And I was actually proposed to be a member. So I really made it. You know what I'm saying? So like I was there. I actually accomplished what I wanted pretty much. And it took me a little while, but I never thought I'd actually be a Mafia guy, and I ended up ultimately being one,
So by 18, and before we get to that quickly, I do want to mention your cousin, Johnny Boy Borello, who
Right.
How old were you when he was killed?
I was 13, but all his friends that he was friends with, like when I got older, they used to say they get chills sitting next to me because they felt like they were next to him because we were so much alike. I guess because we were wild. My cousin was killing people at the age of 20 for them. So I remember I was next to like Todd the Barker and all his friends, Jerry Bruno and all them, and they would be like, "Damn, I'm getting chills. I feel like I'm next to Johnny Boy right now," because my nickname was Genie Boy. So it was similar, Johnny Boy, Genie. So we were the only two really respected out of my whole family, out of the Borello family. We were the only two that I really respected. The rest of them really weren't. I have like 1,000 first cousins, and my dad had 9 brothers, 4 sisters. So they all have kids of kids, but the only ones that were really respected was me and Johnny Boy.
Now, your cousin Johnny Boy would be shot in a car in, I believe, 1996. He was with a girl that day. Vito Guzzer ran up, gun provided by Mikey D'Urso, shot the kid to death. What when you heard about that, what did you immediately think?
I think Anthony Tabita shot him too.
Okay, yeah, I think
they may have both shot him. Yeah, him and I think Anthony Vito Guzzo, and I think Joe O'Kane might have been there too. I think that's the ones who shot my cousin in the drive. They pulled him over in a district attorney van with the light. I don't know if you know that.
What did you think when you heard that?
I mean, I didn't really understand it. I was young. I remember the morning because my mom was crying on the phone. I remember it like it was yesterday because that's my first cousin. My mom and Johnny Boy's mom and stepmom were very close. So remember, that's my dad's brother. So I remember getting the phone call, and I was in junior high school 210 at the time. And I remember my mom running in and goes, "They killed Johnny Boy." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, she's like, "Your cousin's dead. They killed him." And then I remember going to the funeral, and it was just horrible. You know what I mean? He was a kid. He was only 22 when they killed him.
Do you think that did the streets know who did that? Did you ever want retribution for that?
I mean, I was so young, but I know that I did have one other cousin. I had 2 other cousins actually I respected. My cousin Tommy Botch and my cousin Joey. My cousin Joey was nuts too. He's been in jail his whole life. He wanted to do something, and there's a few guys that want to retaliate. But remember, the guys that did it were all serial killers. So you're talking about someone that you have to kill. So it's not like you go to Vito Guzzo and shoot him in the leg. You know what I'm saying? You're asking to die. You had to kill these guys.
And that's kind of the thing. The individual that he's talking about, Vito Guzzo, is serving 38 years for 5 murders.
Yeah, but he's not a tough guy in jail. That's the thing. See, he's tough with a gun.
I understand.
Ronnie G said he was the biggest bitch in jail. So it goes both ways. Like I said, it's like, yeah, he was tough in the street, but they said he wasn't tough in jail. So I don't know,
What I'm trying to say is it would be hard to get to him. People tried to get to him twice, and he survived both times. And as you said, these were serial killers basically doing this.
Yeah, with a gun. Like I said, anyone could be tough, but I'm not taking it away. I was a gun guy. That was my thing. And, like I said, he was tough with a gun, but with his hands, he couldn't fight a lick. Everyone knew that.
Now, by 18, you mentioned you got a drug pinch, which is probably your first big pinch. I mean, assault's no big, it's not a huge charge. I mean,
right.
Kilo cocaine, that's big. How does that happen? Were you moving a lot of drugs at that time?
No, actually, I actually did it with my grandfather, to be honest with you. Me and my grandpa sold the drugs to an undercover, and we didn't know. And my grandpa's friend set us up, Danny Marcha out of Jersey, and we got him a kilo. I was in the car, and they charged me with a sale and possession of a kilo of cocaine. I had no bail at 18.
You go to Rikers?
Yeah, I was in Rikers, yeah.
How long did you do?
About 17 months. My grandpa took the weight.
That's a good grandpa.
Yeah, he
was.
Kind of
a wild story.
He was my best friend. He taught me a lot. You know what I mean? So he was teaching me because he knew I was going that way. So he was just teaching me shit. How to clean guns, how to take them apart. He was just showing me everything. He was in the Korean War. He was very handy with weapons.
He was a hijacker, right?
Yeah, he was back in the day, and then he became a school bus driver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to ask quickly. So your father, do you still communicate with him?
Yes. Yeah, he's not well, though. He has diabetes right now. He's not doing good.
I wish him the best. You're close
Yeah.
to your mother, though, I believe, right?
Yeah, super close to my mother. Yeah.
What does she think during all this? Does she just kind of realize, this is where we're from and this is how things happen? Our whole family's kind of in this life. Did she have an issue with your grandfather and he was getting you involved with this sort of thing?
Yeah, she wouldn't talk after I got locked up. She was really mad at him, but but like I said, then it happened. Like it happened weird because I did time for him and then he did time for me because his second time he went to jail was because someone dropped a tip saying that there was guns in the house, and I was already serving time. I had caught a shooting in front of a bar, and I was serving time. 5 months later, my grandpa wanted to hold all my guns for me. He's like, "No, that's how I remember my grandson. He wanted to hold my guns." So he held the guns and hid them in his house, and an informant said that there was guns in the house, and he got caught with them, and he got 5 years in prison for it, and he died in jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go do the 17 months. Where did you go? Upstate?
Well, that was my first bid. I did 3 bids. So my first bid I did 17 months in Rikers, and then I did and then my second bid I did Rikers and then upstate.
Gotcha. So you come home. Eventually, you meet this guy, Ronald Giallanzo.
Right.
Now,
That
Ronnie G,
that was my mentor. Right.
he's a little older than you. He
Right.
is establishing himself in Howard Beach as kind of the next kind of guy in the Bonanno family. His uncle was Vinny Asaro, who at one point was involved with Lufthansa and all this.
You also got to
stuff.
remember, Jeff, his cousin's Jerry Asaro, captain. His other cousin's Jackie Bonaventure, another captain. His other cousin's Fat Sammy. The whole structure was related.
Yeah, basically his whole familial tree were.
Then Uncle Vince's cousin is Simone. Then Uncle Vince's cousin, the whole Bonanno family was related to them. It was hysterical. So people don't realize that how many people were related to them straightened out. And there's only a certain amount of members,
So Ronnie G, he was just basically an older version in a way of you. He was just kind of the next in line.
Right.
He eventually starts having this huge loan sharking book and bookmaking and doing all this different stuff. How do you get connected with him? Tell me about that.
Well, I want to say something about Ronnie because people don't realize he was the toughest one out of his family. That's why Vinny loved him so much. Vinny didn't like his son. Vinny said his son was a pussy. So Vinny loved Ronnie because Ronnie was more like him. That's why he made Ronnie his acting captain. When Vin got demoted by Joe Messino, Ronnie was supposed to be the skipper. Joe Messino gave it to Jerry Asaro. So Jerry didn't pick Ronnie as his acting captain. He picked his cousin Jackie. And Ronnie was really mad about that because Ronnie was the tough guy. Ronnie was the one that everybody was scared of. Ronnie was a fucking hands-on dude. You know what I mean? Jerry wasn't. Jerry was a nice guy. Jerry wasn't tough like his father. So Ronnie was really the guy that was violent. I seen this guy. He goes after wise guys. He was nuts, bro. I'll be honest with you. He was a tough guy. And I got hooked up with Ronnie because his nephew was my best friend. Me and Bobby G were coming up together, and we started doing armed robberies on social clubs and doing bad things. And Ronnie basically had to sit for us, and then he's like, "Listen, enough of this fucking bullshit you're doing. You're come with me. He's gonna stop the shit. You want to run around? He's gonna run around for me." And that's ultimately how it happened. He loved us because we were violent, and he loved that we were tough. That's what he liked, like Vinny. So he grabbed us, and then we started working for him.
So what are the first things you're starting to do for him?
Honestly, it was more collecting, like me and Bobby would start off collecting his loan money, and we get a little money per week. And then he's like, "Listen, now you could put my money out. So when you're collecting my money, I'll throw you a couple of $100 a week because we were kids." He's like, "But now if people need money, I'll give it to you at a point, and now you can earn money off my money." So he was teaching us how to get out of the armed robbery business and go into the loan shark and the sports because me and Bobby just wanted to steal. So we were like learning.
A lot easier money doing that.
Well, we were hitting shit. We were making, bro, 20 years old. We were hitting some good scores, bro. We were doing some scores, bro. Everyone listening to this knows we were hitting some shit,
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the loan sharking money's easy money, right? Put it on the street, it comes back to you in spades. Let me ask you, let's say I owe $5,000 and I'm not able to pay.
Right.
What are the steps of collection?
Like I said, it's not the movies where we're just going to come baseball bat you. You know what I'm saying? It's like what we do is we try to work it out the best way we can. So we'll work with you and we'll say, well, what's the problem? You borrowed the money. And then, usually we'll get, we'll try to resolve it without hurting you. We try to make hurting you the last resort. You understand that?
So when you hurt me, how does that go down?
So we'll try to see exactly, what we could do to work with you. Like, what's the problem? We'll give you a deadline. Like, all right, listen, you're going to miss these 2 payments, but you got to come correct on this one. Now, if they start really like ducking us and fucking around and they feel like we're making a jerk out of us, then we're going to throw you a beating. We'll start off with that, and then we'll try to make you get the money from someone else or make your family pay it for us.
So I heard a story about you one time where I believe Ronnie G was personally with you, where a debtor owed, I think, $25,000
Oh,
to.
you said it wrong. 250,000.
Okay,
I remember when you said it.
A lot more. 10 times the amount.
250,000.
A lot of money.
Ronnie will kill you over 250,000. So yeah, yes.
So this guy doesn't pay, and you made this individual shit himself. Is that correct?
Listen, this story is really like I hate to say a good one, but it's like it's a really crazy story because Simone was in our crew. He was a Bonanno associate with Ronnie. He knew Ronnie longer than me. He was with Ronnie for 20 years. And let me explain something to you. Ronnie don't care if you know him 50 years. You fucking thinks you're playing him with his money. And we had to make this guy a believer. Ronnie just came home. He's on fucking halfway house. I'm picking him up every day at the halfway house. We're going to the bagel store, his fake job. So we're sitting in the back of the bagel store, and we're doing all the numbers and the collections. And me and Pudgy was a good friend of mine. We were good friends. That was the same circle. Pudgy ended up getting strained out later on, but me and Pudgy were supposed to go in together. And I remember what happened was me and Pudgy said, listen, Ronnie, don't give Simone no more money. He's fucked up on those Roxy pills. Nah, I know Simone 20 years because Simone came to him for another 35,000. And we said, don't give it to him, Ronnie. And then right away, if you know Ronnie like we do, he'll yell at you. Don't fucking tell me to do my money. And we just shut up because that's it. He's the boss. So we're like, all right, Ron. So me and Pudgy in the background's like, yo, this guy don't know how fucked up he is. Sure enough, Ronnie gives him the other 35,000. Now, if you understand loan sharking, if you have 250,000 on the street at one point, you should be making like 5,000-6,000 a week for yourself, bro. You're charging 2-3 points. He can't even make the $2,500 payment, Jeff. So now we know he's upside down. So Ronnie, the first week, I gotta bring it to him. I said, "This is Simone." He goes, "How much?" I said, "Oh, 2,000." So now he got the face. I don't want to say nothing, and he's like, 2,000. I'm like, "Yeah." He said he's gonna give it to you next week. He's like, "All right." But if you do the math, how are you short on the money?
Right.
It's not, so Ronnie's, I know inside bugging. The next week, bro, Jeff, he comes with 1,500. Ronnie's flipping out. He goes, "Bring him to me." I'm like, "All right." I go to his house. Now, I told Simone when I picked him up, I says, "Bro, if you're fucked up, tell me now. We got to work this out with him. If you go there and you lie to him, you know what's going to happen." He's like, "No, I know Ronnie 20 years. I said, "Okay." We got to the deli. I brought him there. Exact words. We brought him into the back. Ronnie goes just like this. "So what's the problem? Where's my money?" He goes, "You're shorting me every week. Where's all the money?" He goes, "Why, Ron? What's the big deal?" "What's the big deal?" Overhand left. Bang. Put him right to the ground. We start beating him. I got brass knuckles on. I already knew what we were going to do to him. We're beating him. We drag him into my car. We're beating him more into the car. He's like screaming like a woman. I'm going to be honest with you. It was bad. And Ronnie's screaming, "Where's my money?" on the top of his lungs, bro. We're beating him. I started smelling something. I'm like, "Ron, what the fuck?" I said, "Yo," I realized he shit himself, bro. He was so scared. He shit his pants, bro. Like real, like talk. Now I got to leave this dude in my car because the whole story gets worse. Ronnie says, "Don't leave his side. I want his loan shark list." Now, if you give up your list, that's your livelihood. So right. I got to go to the house with this guy with shit in his ass in the back seat of my car. I got to drive him all the way back to his house. I got to bring him upstairs in front of his wife and kids, bro. We're Pudgy now. Pudgy had to meet me at the house. I got to fucking beat him up a little more in the house. I'm not going to lie to you because he won't give me the loan shark list. Pudgy's there crying laughing because Pudgy hates him. So I end up getting the loan shark list, right? I got it out of him. It took me like an hour. I had to put a knife to his neck eventually. It gets really bad. And I had to put a knife to his neck. He says, "You don't give me the fucking list, I'm going to cut you." And fucking I eventually got the fucking list, and he was 100,000 upside down.
Wow.
100,000 upside down, bro. Jeff, eventually you know what happened? Ronnie made him sell his house to pay him.
Wow.
Yeah, bro. It was bad. This is a guy in his crew for 20 years.
Whatever happened to him?
I don't know. I know he was chased after that, and he was embarrassed because it went over to social clubs that he shit his pants, that we beat him up. So he was embarrassed to show his face because your own guy did it to you. So You know what I'm saying? Like, he was always playing like this, "I'm getting made." You know, he was like one of those guys, and we just took his whole mob career and threw it in the garbage. You know what I'm saying?
And he thought because of his friendship with Ronnie was just going to let it go. And as you know, there's no friends in that life, really.
Well, not only that, he wasn't as close as, like, Ronnie knew him a long time, but, like, me and his nephew and guys were really tight with Ronnie. Don't get me wrong. Ronnie hit me before because I stuck up a Gambino card game. I should have been killed. So I had to take a beating myself. I'm not gonna lie to you. I never bullshit. I had to take a beating because I pistol whipped a guy and everything. It was bad. So I should have got killed for that. It was actually like a high-ranking Gambino spot. So I was supposed to get fucking dealt with worse than that, and I only got a beat.
What spot was it? You mind saying?
It was Quack Quack's son, Angelo Ruggiero, and that's backed up by the Carrazos pretty much, bro. So fucking, I went too far. Me and Bobby, you know, we pistol whipped the guy and everything, bro. Took 50,000, a masterpiece Rolex, and we got to give it back the next day. You know, everything.
I want to hear a little bit about the home invasions you were doing, because that's something that you're pretty known for. At one point, one of the people that you robbed said that, quote, "This animal is now free to do the same thing all over again." She didn't want to speak due to anonymity.
Right.
Tell me about this, because there's reports that you would go into a home, tie everybody up, and just take everything.
Right. So we were targeting. So like I said, you know, things get blown out of proportion. But like I said, I was no angel. But I had a very vicious, probably one of the most vicious robbery teams around. We were doing a lot of armed robbery, home invasion. We were doing jewelry store armed robberies in broad daylight, Jeff. Taking the whole store, literally. And we were very, as my prosecutor would say, brazen. We were a very brazen robbery team where we were doing these outlandish robberies, dressing up as UPS, all kinds of things. So
basically, you were similar to if that film The Town. You were like those guys, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were going to jewelry stores with pistols out. Yeah, literally hopping over counters, tying the owners up, and taking the whole store in laundry bags. So we were doing a lot of wild shit. Like I said, we were new school, old school guys. We dressed differently, but we were still doing old school shit. You know what I'm saying? So we were really wild. And we had robbed, we did 3 home invasions in Howard Beach, and they were all crime figures. But what happens is this, Jeff. When you go, let's say I rob you, right? You're a known gangster drug dealer, but your wife's in the house. She knows what you are, bro. That comes with the game. So they would complain that women were being tied up, but at the end of the day, you're a crime figure's wife. We're telling you to go in the bathroom, and we're taking your shit.
So would you say you had a rule that you were not? Would you ever go into a home of just an innocent family?
No, that's a lie. Never did that. It's bullshit. Yeah, it always
you were only going into gangsters' house.
Yeah, well, gangsters or drug dealers or someone that's a crime figure. We did a home invasion on Bam Auto Body. He's a made guy now. You know what I'm saying? That's the guys we were robbing. We were targeting gangsters and drug dealers. That's what we were targeting.
Do you think if you grew up 10 or 20 years earlier, you would have been killed pretty early, right?
100. Well, no, because my Uncle Andy.
So you were one of those kids. You were always hanging on to that, like, oh, I could do what I want because.
Well, back in the day, I would have got away with it. No, now I should, like, in the modern day, like, Vinny and Ronnie would protect me only so much, but like, I crossed the line a few times really bad where I didn't know what was going to happen to me. You know what I mean?
What kind of money were you kicking up?
So here's the thing, Ronnie, I took care of Vin personally because Vin went broke later on in life. That's why I always didn't like what Ronnie did, because Ronnie at one point was making, and this is no exaggeration, obviously I can't lie because it's government things. He was making like $3 million a year in cash, Ronnie, at one point. And he wouldn't give Vinny $1.
And that's his uncle.
Right. But Ronnie was very greedy. And like I said, that was his downfall. I was saying in my interviews. Ronnie was a very greedy guy. I used to pay Vin's rent for him because he couldn't even pay his rent. So a lot of people know that. I bought him cell phones. I love Vinny. Vinny was my idol. He took care. He looked out for me. He sat down sit-downs and blatantly lied for me. He would sit down. I would say, Vin, listen, he owes his drug money, but we're going to turn into loan shark money. He goes, yeah, no problem. He goes, I'll make it like I was there. He was the best. If you're going to take care of him, he'll fucking win the sit down. He'll get you the money back. And that's it. You know, that was my boy. He was like, me and him with 50 years age difference, but we were friends basically.
He's a long-time gangster, man. He's been around a long time.
He taught me everything. I know every rule. He sat me down, literally schooled me from front to back, side to side. You know, like, I knew everything of the mob. That's why when I talk to old school guys, I'm like, you really can't tell me nothing. Like, this guy could have wrote the rules. Like, he's been around since the 50s. So it's like, you can't really, like, tell me nothing. And, you know, I remember he was pushing for me to get made. That's why I was so, like, honored. He was pushing for it more than Ronnie. And that's what, like, you know, I had my chest pumped up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that Vinny wanted me in. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think Ronnie at some point maybe was kind of bothered by you, maybe that you were kind of had a better relationship with his uncle than he did?
No, they had a good relationship. They would fist fight. Oh, they would fist fight each other. They were nuts. They two were crazy. I remember being in the car with Ronnie and Vin cutting him off trying to get out the car and fist fight him. They were fucking nuts, that family. You know, they were just wackos. But Ronnie and Vinny were very close, no matter what. But Ronnie was just cheap with his money. There's sometimes he'd throw him a few dollars, but in my brain, I'm like, bro, you could legitimately give this guy $1,500 a week and you wouldn't even know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll make it so much money. Like, you know, he was just greedy, and I would always take care of him. And I'd be like, Vin, you know, he had no money to go to the track. You know, he just got burnt out where he couldn't make no earn. So I would always try to take care of him, you know?
Yeah, I know at one point he was in real rough spots with just like even paying his dues at social clubs and things like that.
Well, they would never disrespect him like that. Don't believe those stories. Nobody's going to Vin. Let me explain to you about the real.
No, I don't think anyone went to them, but there was definitely concerns that he didn't have enough money to pay for certain things.
Vinny was allowed to do what he wanted, Jeff. I'm going to be honest. He was in a category of like, there's a boss, and then there's Vinny. I'm being honest with you, bro. Like, there's literally like, he told Charles Caniglia, I don't go to sit-downs, bro. Like, come on. He shot Charles's girlfriend in the ass. He had his son and Ronnie shoot Donna Cavalcanti for cracking a bottle over his daughter's head. I don't know if you know that story. And Charles asked for a sit-down, and Vinny goes, I don't go to sit-downs. That's what he told him. All right. So, you know, Vinny was a different caliber of a guy when he was in his heyday. You know, he was very feared and respected.
Now, around this time, you're starting to build up. You have people thinking maybe at some point you could be made. What kind of money are you making? What are you living like? Are you going out to clubs? What's your life like?
Right. Yeah. So I was a party guy, but like I said, I made great money, but I wasn't a saver. So everything I made, I spent. You know, I wasn't like.
What are you making a week?
At one point, I was doing $5,000 to $10,000.
In the early 2000s, late 2000s?
No, late 2000s. Like, my best years was 2011, 2013. Those were my best years. Like, when I was younger with Ronnie starting, I was making like $2,000 a week. You know, decent. But like I said, I don't know why I was never a millionaire. But like, I could have been a millionaire when I got with Ronnie when he came home. That's when I was, you know, I was running sports books, like really making good money. And at one point, I had like the biggest half sheet for him with my sports guys, where they were losing like 40, 50,000 a week, bro.
Now, were you a gambler yourself, or you were just?
Yeah, I gambled. I gambled myself. Me and Bobby lost like 75,000 on his sheet one time. We got in mad trouble.
So you were betting into other gangsters.
Yeah.
Not paying.
Yeah, we would sometimes, or you know, otherwise we would put it on someone else and fuck them.
Would you agree it's kind of an unwritten rule? It seems like no gangster ever pays any debts they owe.
No, they do. If wise guys get involved, they work out deals and shit like that. I've seen it.
Okay. So where are you going out at in the city at the time?
I was all over the place. Oh, I was all over the city. I was one of those guys at one point I was going out every day. In the strip clubs, nightclubs, everywhere, you know?
What by this point, what does your mother think? Is she
Well, I wasn't living with her no more. I was gone out the house at 18. So I mean, I would always just go visit her and see her. You know, my mom one time, a funny story, they were watching me so heavily in 2013 this was. And I remember my mom had caught the guy sitting reading the newspaper. It was FBI. It was great. And they were taking pictures of me by my mother's house. And she caught them, but she thought it was a pedophile taking pictures of her little son. I have a little brother. She chased the fucking car down. This is a real story. Chased the car down and realized that it was a fucking cop taking pictures of me or whatever. And she goes, Gene, I thought it was a pedophile taking a picture. Actually, she had the little baby with her. She jumped in the car, chased the car down. It was a fucking FBI.
Wow.
So I knew they were all over me. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know.
So you eventually would start working and doing things for Vinny Asaro, who by this point is pretty old, right?
Well, I was doing things for Vinny when I was 20 years old. Yeah.
But you start taking on certain responsibility. If something happens, you maybe help him out a little bit. At one point, Vinny Asaro, who, as we said, been around forever,
right? He
gets into this interaction with a driver in Queens. I guess.
But what you're forgetting about with Vinny Asaro is this: Vinny was old, but still sharp as a fucking nail, man. Oh my God! Listen to me. This guy was still, he was still carrying pistols. I swear in his car. This guy still thought he was in the 70s. Yeah.
So this guy cuts him off in traffic. Tell me about what happened.
Right. So there was a few things that did Vinny, and a lot of people. The other charge that they were going to put on Vinny, I want to say that they didn't talk about, was I was supposed to kill a janitor for him. They actually called it off because people were flipping out saying you can't kill a fucking civilian. So Psychopath wanted me to kill a janitor for hitting him in a deli. I mean, this is a real story, and everyone knows about it. And he wanted me to blow his head off in the street. And what ended up happening is, of course, I had to say yes, but they ended up getting the order changed to a beating. I ended up beating up the guy really bad in broad daylight in front of everybody, and I had to give him a message. You ever disrespect our people again, we'll fucking kill you. And that was the message Vinny wanted to tell him because he put his hands on Vinny. And that was when they were going to charge him with, and they didn't end up doing it. They ended up charging him with the arson. And it was actually another beating I did for him. I beat up a captain's nephew. You ever hear Conrad from the Genovese family?
Yeah.
I beat up Conrad's nephew, Angelo Giuseppe, really bad with a baton in his house in front of his mother for hitting Judy, which is his niece. That was another assault I did for him. And then I did an arson for him when he got cut off on the road. He got the plate through somebody, and he got ran to a Gambino guy, and I got the address, and I took my guys, which was Little Gotti and Fat Matt, and I blew the car up. We actually got caught blowing the car up by the cops, and we went on a high-speed chase and got away.
So by this point, you have your own little group as well.
I had every young kid in the neighborhood wanted to be with me. I had 20 kids under me.
You had John A. Gotti, who was the grandson of Senior.
Yeah. Well, you see, I had a lot of problems with that because Ronnie G's son and him didn't get along. That was one thing. And he kept picking on Ronnie G's son. And I told him, you better fucking stop. Stop doing that to little Ronnie, because little Ronnie was like my baby brother. I was like, stop fucking doing it. I says, you hang out with us now. Stop. Don't bother him no more. And then I had another problem because I kept on going to Ronnie, like, I'm telling you, this kid's the real deal. And they're like, he's a jerk off. He's a Gotti. He's a fucking, they thought they were all jerk offs now. I says, bro, this kid's not a jerk off, Ron. Just, you got to give him a shot. You gave me a shot. Everybody deserves their chance, to show themselves. He's like, all right, you want to fucking give this kid a chance? Go ahead. Let him be with you. So I took little Gotti. I really liked him. And he had balls. And Fat Matt. And I had a bunch of other young kids that were doing things for me that were going to be in my crew when I got straightened out. I was going to put them on record with me. I already made it clear to Ronnie. I was putting 4 guys on record with me right after Muscle when I got straightened out. So he was one of them, Little Gotti and Fat Matt. And I liked them a lot. They were good kids, and they had balls.
What about the Gotti kid did you like?
He was tough, and he was a fighter. He had good hands, and he would do anything I tell him. He had done robberies with me also. Bank robberies, burglaries. He was doing shit. He had balls. He even was on, we were going to do something to somebody really bad, and he was the driver. At 18, I had this kid, Jeff. He was doing these things.
What, you mentioned that in the streets at that point, that the name Gotti was not.
It was garbage. It was garbage, yeah.
So what did you know about the Gottis at that point that made you say that?
Well, I grew up with the grandson, Frankie Albano. He was a punk, but I'm saying but I liked him at the time, but he was like not a tough kid. The only tough one out of the whole family was the one I had, Little Gotti, the little John.
Did anyone come to you and say, hey, stay away from this kid?
No. No, not at all. They liked that he was hanging out with me because his father was, I told you, the toughest one out of the whole family.
Well, hold on a second. So you're saying that John A. Gotti, this individual right here, his father, Peter, is John Sr.'s son.
Youngest kid and the toughest one out of the whole family.
Explain that to me.
Yes, so he was the tyrant to Howard Beach. Like, he had a black expedition, and when it would pull up, everybody would run. He was one of the most feared guys in the area for years.
And you're not talking about John Jr., you're talking about
John
Peter.
Jr. John Jr. was nowhere near his brother Peter. Peter didn't want to be a made guy. Peter was the worst one. Anyone listening to this, I got messages talking about this last time. About time somebody brought up Peter, because Peter was a tyrant, bro. I mean, he stabbed people, left them in front of hospitals, locked guys in dog cages, tied them up to telephone poles, beating them, stripping them naked. He was horrible. Horrible.
What do you think came over him? Because from what I understand now, he's a very normal individual. Like,
but when we were growing up, he used to lock us in parks, check for drugs, fucking.
Do you think he got to a point where he just said, I don't want this for my life?
No, he never wanted that. He never wanted that for his life. He never wanted to be a gangster. He was just a nut.
Wow.
He actually hopped out of the bushes on my friend with a samurai sword.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a fucking nut. He was the worst one out of the whole family.
So I want to talk about that arson. So you said you're in the process of doing this thing, and a cop takes you on a high-speed chase. Yeah. How does that end?
Well, Little Gotti, I told Little Gotti, don't stop the car. We were doing 120 over the bridge. I actually tuck and rolled out the car, and they chased me, and I got the car away. They probably thought I had a weapon on me. I got away, and I got them away. They pulled off, and there was only one cop in the car. We got lucky. So he chased us all the way from Broad Channel to Howard Beach. I guess he didn't have time to radio in to get us. John Gotti's doing 120 miles over the bridge, and the kid had balls, man. He wouldn't stop, and I told him, make the hard right by Aldo's Pizza. When he made the hard right, the cop was right behind us. I jumped out the moving car. They chased me. He got away. That was it.
How does this life end for you? How did it all end?
It ended when my fake cousin Frank Nunziata was selling drugs behind my back. He was in my crew for a little while, and he was selling tons of cocaine to an undercover cop. and 4 ounces or more with his fucking baby in his arms, pulling the drugs out the fucking kid's backpack, and actually ultimately gets jammed up. And they said, we don't want you, we want your cousin. They were basically after him for me and my guys. So he wore a wire on me, and that's how I got buried.
So you get arrested. Ronnie, everybody.
But the feds were already building a case on us from years. Yeah, they were already building on us. They started building on us from Ronnie from jail because Ronnie was getting me Ronnie tried to have me shoot a guy from jail. Ronnie was sending messages to emails, and he was crazy. He didn't care.
At what point do you kind of say, because obviously you're here talking to us. People are probably saying, how does this guy sit here and talk to us? Why isn't he in jail?
Right. So I cooperated, obviously.
What made you do that?
So when I sat up, like I said, I hated Ronnie at the end. Like, a lot of people know the story. Me and him became enemies when I left to Florida. I robbed him, and we were like on bad terms. When I got locked up on these conspiracies, I knew I was in a world of shit because they locked me up on a state conspiracy, and then they locked me up on a Florida conspiracy, and then I knew I had a federal conspiracy coming down on me. So I knew I had 3 different conspiracies, and my lawyer kept saying, there's a lot of people cooperating against you. I says, okay. I says, what do you mean? I says, well, the feds, they kept saying this lady wants to talk to you. I says, who? It was Nicole Argentieri. She kept on trying to get me to cooperate in the beginning. I wouldn't cooperate at first. I was fighting. I was like, all right. I'm like, all right, I'm going to cooperate. And I'm like, nah, fuck that. I ain't cooperating. So then I end up sitting up. But the lady Nicole, who did the Latanza heist case, and her crew, Lindsay and them, were trying to get me to cooperate right away. And I did. And I sat up like, I didn't sit with them till like 17 months later. And I ultimately ended up cooperating because I asked Ronnie to help me with a lawyer, and he refused. And he said he would help me if he went federal. I knew he wasn't going to help me. And then I realized that I was looking at life in prison pretty much, and everybody turned their backs on me. So I was like, all right, everybody's mad at me. All right, fuck it. I says, they don't want to help me. I said, all right, fuck it. I'm going to go bad. And when the FBI came to see me, I says, yeah, give me the paper. They're like, you're going to die in jail. You know that, right? I was like, give me the paper. And I sat and cooperated.
How old were you at that point?
30, going to be 31 years old.
So you were looking at probably the next 50, 60 years in prison.
Oh, I remember because they would never tell me. I only got it out of them once because I remember I'm a career criminal. So I didn't realize how much shit they had on me. They had me on conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murders, shootings, armed robberies, everything. I was done. But they says you would have got 7 years in the state, 10 years in Florida, and like 20-something years in the feds. That was without trial. If I blow trial, I get life. You know what I'm saying? So I could have got like a 35-year cop-out, maybe 40-year cop-out, something like that. Did
you do all those things?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned you really liked Vinny Asaro, right?
Yeah, I did. I didn't want to cooperate against him.
Right. And what I've seen from Vinny Asaro, he seems like an affable guy. He seems like a jolly kind of guy. He's legendary kind of guy.
No.
He's not.
No.
I've seen him speak. He seems pretty interesting. But you're saying you didn't want to cooperate against him.
I did. I did like him, but he was psychotic. He was a lunatic. But he's not nice. He'll fly off the handle, curse you out, flip out. I mean, literally. But I liked him. I got along with him. He likes bad guys, but he's nuts. If you tell him to be there at 3:00 and you're 10 minutes late, he'll fucking go crazy on you. Like legitimately go crazy on you.
Do you think he just got desperate dealing with like some of you guys? Or
no, not at all. I mean, he really liked me. I was dealing with him before. Since I'm young, I dealt with him for years. I dealt with Vinny more than Ronnie, to be honest with you, because Ronnie was away for a lot of years.
But what I'm saying is there was no other way. He felt, like you said, he thought it was the 70s still.
Oh, yeah. I remember he had a beef with someone. He had a 25 in his trunk. I was crying laughing. I'm like, bro, you're 79 years old. You're going to shoot someone? I'm like, we'll do that. He's like, no, I got this. Fucking guy.
Well, he ended up getting 8 years due to some of your testimony.
Yeah.
Ronnie Giallanzo, your mentor, got almost 15 years. He won't get out for another 5 or 6.
He was going to get he was going to get 20 years if he didn't take that because they were going to recharge him. I had shot a guy for him in 2011, and they were going to charge him with that shooting if he didn't take the cop out.
What do you think he would say to you if you were sitting in front of him?
No, he'd go crazy on me.
Do you ever worry about that?
No, I'm not one of those guys like that. I don't care. I mean, but I know he's disappointed in me because, I was his favorite at one time. Like literally.
When you also, in a way, made him, have that big house and all those things because, in the end, he just became very greedy, right? You were a workhorse. You did what he asked you to do. And
I do anything
he almost betrayed you in a way.
Bro, my girlfriend, I never even seen her when he came home because I was with him 24/7. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, I had to bring her by. She would come by his house because I'm like, I gotta be here. So she would have to come hang out with me by his house.
Did you ever think at some point during all this, when you're facing possible, like you said, life, did you ever think at any point, you know what, I'm just going to do this. This is my life. This is what I chose to do. Because remember, Gene,
Yeah.
you did those things. Okay, you're a grown adult. You're a grown
Right.
man. You went in and did those things. Did you ever think maybe, you know what, my life will be okay in prison with all my friends and I'll meet people and that'll just be my life. I chose this. Did you ever think about that and say, you know what, I'm just going to do this?
Yeah. At one point, I was trying to get a 20-year cop out. I couldn't get it.
So you would have taken 20 years.
Yeah, 100%. For everything. There was too much going on. I couldn't.
But when you saw that word or heard that word,
no, I knew I was fucked. You got to understand something. And you know why? I knew I was fucked because they wanted me to cooperate. So why are they going to give me a good deal? They want me to go bad. They know I'm the key. When Vinny beat the Latanza heist case, they knew I was the only guy that worked for him in the modern day. So who else they need to go out? I'm the only one that can hurt him. So they're not going to give me a good deal. They're going to say, no, fry him so he goes bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't give you much.
When Vinny beat that case, I knew I was fucked.
Gotcha.
They would have brought down hell on me for me to go bad.
Do you ever miss that world?
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's so washed up. There's nothing to miss. It was so it's so washed up now. You know, when I was out there younger, it was still good, but it's so washed up now. Like, no, it's such a joke. I hear the guys that are made now. It's like hysterical.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that in a second. I just want to kind of wrap up. So you what did you ultimately get with a sentence after your testimony?
63 months.
So 5 years, basically.
Yeah, a little over 5.
What was your time in prison like?
I mean, like I said, the first 2 years was Rikers Island. The next year was under a fake name in New Jersey in some corny jail, and then the next 2 years and change was in Farrington,
South Jersey. I know where it is.
Yeah.
So you come home. Where'd you go when you came home? Did you go right back to Howard Beach?
Yeah, I was living with my mother in Howard Beach, and then I went to Brooklyn. I moved to the Avalon. Beautiful building.
Were you ever concerned? Like, hey, I'm an informant. Maybe I shouldn't be here?
I hate to toot my horn. I was like that, Jeff. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. You know how I was. I was like that, bro. I was
now, Gene, I'm gonna bring something up. There is a reported video of someone chasing you out of Ozone.
All right, so here's the thing. They said I pulled a knife out on them. There was like 10 kids, and originally they ran up the block, and then they were just screaming things, and then I went back to my car. That was really it. They reportedly said that I had a knife, and I jumped out on 10 kids. This is what they said.
Right. Yeah, I've heard what they've said. Yeah. Let me ask you, what do you think the future holds for little Gotti, as you call him? Do you think he'll just come home and he eventually got a sentence as well?
Well, he's hooked on heroin right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's bad on those pills, those Roxys. I heard he's all fucked up, which I'm surprised. He was never a drug kid when I met him, but I know he got hooked on them bad.
No. Remember, we just want to make this clear. That's allegedly. Maybe.
Well, the kid, everyone knows he's on it. He was kicking from him when he got locked up. He was withdrawing bad.
Yeah, remember, he also is serving a separate case for selling oxycodone and things like that.
Yeah, so. He was hooked on. He was making a lot of money, though. I'll give him that. He was fucking killing.
And he was making it and keeping it in his grandfather's home, which
but he was doing them. That's what killed him. Mm-hmm. You know.
What do you think? You think that's his future? What do you think the future holds for him?
I don't know. He still got some years left. I think he comes home 2025. I actually begged them not to hurt him. I didn't want to hurt him. I liked little Gotti. I did. I was like, yo, don't give that kid no time. He was taking orders from me. I was like, trying to help him with the Austin, but they're like, listen, it is what it is, So
you come home. What were you doing at that time? Do you have a job? What are you doing?
Bro, I came home right to COVID, bro. I was out for like 2 months and then COVID hit. I was locked down.
And then you surface in a interview with John A-Light on Vlad TV. You're there telling a little bit of your story. And then you start doing this show with John A-Light called the John and Gene Show, and you
blew the fuck up.
Yeah, you had a nice following. You're doing your thing, and then I kind of just want to discuss then what would happen.
I threatened to kill my ex's husband.
Yeah, I kind of want to go over what you said. You said reportedly, remember what I used to do. I will grab your father right now and beat the dog shit out of him. Yeah. Be happy I don't grab you and your fat, ugly husband by the neck and drag you down the street. Now, I guess I'll have to ask, because we heard quotes earlier that you're an animal and you're a lunatic and you went to prison. Do you feel like that's some behavior that you should be doing after you got a huge lease on life? What was
Yeah,
your reasoning on that?
I don't know. I'm a hothead. Sometimes I lose it, but like I said, I was just with her father 3 days before that talking to him. So stupid.
So you didn't take it real serious. You thought she would just kind of realize you are who you are, and she wouldn't
No,
do
she
much?
didn't call him. It wasn't her. She was just laughing. She didn't even care. She used to, bro. Me and that girl used to fight each other all the time. She didn't care. It was her husband that did it. You know.
Would you feel you have a little bit of a problem with maybe picking the wrong women or something?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Possible.
Interesting. So what happened with you with that ultimately?
I got 4 months in jail, 6 months house arrest, and then restarted my probation.
Now today you're free and clear?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to play quickly before we wrap up. I just want to kind of get your thoughts on what the mob looks like today, some of the things going around. I do want to bring up also about, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, we would learn that you were actually sued by a member of the Gotti family, Angel Gotti,
Right.
the daughter of John Sr. Is there anything you can tell about that? What does that pertain to exactly?
She basically has thin skin. She can say what she wants about everybody, but can't handle when people say things back to her. Don't say shit about me. I won't say shit about you. I don't give a fuck about no lawsuit. She can sue me all she wants. I don't care. You say something bad about me, I'm gonna say something bad about you. That's it.
So this has to do with a bit of a sparring match back and forth between you and her as far as saying things.
And her son, when I came home, was on Facebook going, I can't believe you let this kid walk around Howard Beach. Well, her son never been in a fist fight. He's a straight punk. Like, what are you talking about fighting and going after people? Like, you never been in a fight. Like, Frankie Albano, you're a fucking computer nerd video game guy. Like, get out of here. So he was talking tough on Facebook, and that shit just got me mad. I'm like, bro, you ain't no fucking street dude, bro. You got beat up. You got your chain took, and your fucking... My co-defendant's father had to go get it back from the kid, Robo. This kid, Robo, beat him up and took his chain with his grandfather's picture on it. And his Uncle Peter, the one I told you that's crazy, he had to go get the chain back from the kid.
So do you feel this lawsuit's a bit frivolous?
Yeah, it was just attention because, I'm a view. Let's keep it real, bro. I'm a popular dude in this industry. They get it's to keep it real here, bro.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
So I'm a view, bro.
You're still being represented by Doug Anton?
Yeah, that's my buddy. I'm actually personally friends with him. Yeah.
You think it'll work out for you?
As of right now, I think that lawsuit's in default. From what Doug told me, I don't think it's valid.
Interesting.
She didn't even serve me in time. She has to refile it, and she don't have no money, so these cost money.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question, then we'll get into this and we'll get out of here. What do you regret your life? Do you wish you would have went a different way?
No, I don't.
And you don't, you look at it now. Are you okay with just, as we've heard in Goodfellas and things like that? You're just you're a person now. You're not.
Well, I'm not a regular. See, that's the thing, and that's what government got mad. I'm not a regular person. I actually became like a fake celebrity, and they don't like it, and that's the problem. I'll be honest with you. It's bad. I'm friends with like actors and people, and I made friends in like such places that I can't believe I did, but that's what they don't like, and that I'm like popular off being a bad guy. And like I said, people glorify the mob, and I was the first modern day guy to come out. So people, cling to me, you know what I'm saying? So I have like a big following. I get thousands of fan mail a day in my Instagram. Like I get, it's crazy. So that's what they don't like, honestly.
Will we see you again, maybe on a podcast? I know at one point you were thinking about some sort of media career. You wrote this book. I actually want to mention. I actually read this book, Louis Romano. It's actually a pretty good book. And you talk about your life as an ex-Bonanno family mafia enforcer.
Right.
Do you think the world, as far as Gene on YouTube, is that done, or will you ever come back? I heard you've given up that world. Are you done with that?
I did give it up. I don't really want – honestly, the reason why I give it up is because too many people ruined it. It's too many people now. We had it good. There's certain people out there, but now it just became like them fighting with each other. It's like stupid. I don't even know. It's like –
Do you watch Mafia content at all or anything?
Yeah, I do. I watch certain ones only.
Okay. All right. I just want to go over a couple of pictures here, what you think of these people. Recently in the news, there's been a wild story in the Bonanno crime family. The boss, allegedly, Michael the Nose.
He's the boss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he shelved an individual, John Camerano. Camerano was told to stay away from the funeral of his father-in-law, Vito.
Right. Do you know why? Do you know why he got shelved? Him and Porky.
Yeah, he tried to take over, basically.
No. Him and Porky. That's not true. Him and Porky got shelved because they had their lawyer, who I know the lawyer actually spoke to him about it. Basically, the lawyer stated that my client was a consigliere, not the underboss. So you're basically admitting to a position in the mob. that this guy's with his position at the time. So that's basically a form of ratting they felt, and they got shelved for that. That's why they got shelved.
So they get shelved. There's a
They got
fight
shelved in a trial. You're not supposed to admit to what you are.
Right.
So
Sure.
Mikey DeNose tried to play the old school shit and say you admitted to positions in the mob, and that's why they really got shelved, because they beat the case like that.
So they get shelved. They're told to stay away from a funeral. Okay.
Right.
Camerato's father-in-law dies, and they go to the funeral. Allegedly, Mikey DeNose orders 3 individuals to beat Camerato up. What do you think about that? Is that something? What do you think of the mob nowadays?
I mean, there's certain guys, like I said, and I'll keep it real. You're always ordered away from getting killed. If you get a maniac from the old school that just says, yeah, I want this guy killed, you got to fulfill the order. But guys are just scared to order that stuff now, you know? Mikey DeNose is definitely a gangster. He's definitely an old school guy. He was with Vinny Gorgeous' crew, so I know he's a maniac. That whole crew was crazy. And he's an older guy, so, yeah, he's a valid boss. And he is a guy that would order you to be killed, 100%.
But as you know, today there's not much killing going on in the Mafia, so
there's none.
Kind of hamstrung on what you can do.
I think the last murder that was ordered was Mikey Meldish. That was done by my friend's crew. Frankie Pasqua's, that Lucchese crew did it.
Long time ago, yeah. It's been
2013, I think it was, yeah.
I mean, the last couple of mob hits were committed by people that were not connected to the mob. So
I don't even consider that a mob hit. The guy got his father killed. That wasn't a mob hit. It was just him.
I'm talking even about Frank Cali, right? That's some lunatic.
That's not a mob hit. Yeah, I'm talking about a valid mob hit where a boss got you killed with Matthew Madonna and ordering Mikey Mellish's murder. That's 2013. Right.
You admit you're an informant. We all know that. Do you consider John Gotti Jr. an informant? We'll ask you.
Everyone does except for him and his family.
And as you know, and I'll kind of let the listeners know, John Gotti Jr. did have a 302 session. He sat down with the government. He gave them information. And by any stretch of the imagination, even admitting that you're part of that life is a snitch move.
Jeff, you know why I respect you so much and I respect your show so much and everyone does is because you see what you just said? Nobody will say that. You see what you just said? The words that you just said, these pussies will not say it because they all want to kiss their ass. What you just said is the most truest thing. Just did a 302 and you said it and you did. What is that? What are you labeled in the mob world?
A rat.
That's it. No ifs and buts. There's no way around it. There's no one went to jail. You sat, you profit, you're a fucking boss. What are you?
Well, I always say this. My whole question to them would be, and look, I don't try to play favorites. I try to be fair to everybody.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, what would John's father think about that move?
He ordered his murder. Why did he kill Willie Boy?
Right.
What was Willie Boy?
I think we all know what he would do, right?
Right. He had Tommy Karate and fucking Bobby Lino kill him. No, Bobby Lino was the shooter on that. Eddie Lino was the shooter on that too. They shot Eddie Lino and Tommy Karate smoked this guy over being an informant. So, even with Anthony Arellano, Anthony from Massachusetts, they killed their boss for 302.
Adolfo, yeah.
Genovese guy ordered the murder. They killed him. But with 302 is a death sentence. If no one goes to jail, it means you sat with the feds. That's it.
I think what we've learned about this media stuff and YouTube is people move the goalposts on what a rat is, right? And in the 60s, if you haven't admitted there was a mafia, that was a rat move, right?
Right.
So I think it's really kind of all moving the goalposts on this stuff. And
I say this on every show. I'm from the heart of the Mafia neighborhood. Howard Beach is one of the most known Mafia neighborhoods in the country, if not the number one known. Okay? So I know for a fact what he was labeled in Howard Beach. They all called him a fucking rat. And that's the truth. And there's nothing to lie about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think anybody, the only people that are not seeing it are just certain people that don't want to see it.
It's his family. That's it. That's it.
Sure. I want to quickly ask you about this guy, and then we'll wrap up. Peter Tuccio was recently given a 10-year sentence for an arson, very similar case to something that you did. As you know, an arson is probably a 3-4 year sentence. They gave him 10 years.
Well, I could have made a mistake with that. You see,
I think you're very valid. It's not arson, 10 years. Gene.
Arson, extortion. It was. I didn't know that it was that.
Right, but you're not going to get his co-defendants got probation.
Well, do you know why he did it? I'll tell you why. He's in pictures with Joey fucking Molino. He's putting them on Instagram. So the FBI seen this kid hanging out with a fucking boss that they want. Of course they're gonna fucking put pressure on him, bro. It's common sense.
I talk all the time as well about what will the Mafia look like in 10, 20 years, right? And eventually Peter Tuccio will get out. Now, it is important to realize Peter Tuccio did not cooperate. I don't know what he would give them, but he didn't cooperate.
Right.
You know Peter. What do you know about him?
He was actually with me, bro.
I know you did you like him? I feel like you
I
said you
did.
did.
He was one of my guys. He was originally going to be with me. Yeah, I had him at 18 years old too.
What do you think a kid like that sees in this life? Why do that?
I don't know. He was obsessed with the life too, but like I said, you can't knock that because I was once that kid doing the same thing, and I always said that he was a wannabe, but they're the most dangerous guys because they're trying to be, and they'll do anything to be. You understand that?
Yeah.
A wannabe's a dangerous guy, bro.
Well, Gene, I'll say this. You said it all, really. I've said before, I think you're a pretty interesting character. I mean, you obviously have done things that, I don't think anybody co-signs, nor do we co-sign some of your behavior after the fact. But you're trying to, I guess, live your life the right way. I got a feeling this isn't the last time we see you on media of some sort.
Yeah.
I think you need to just tie your head on straight and just grow up a little. And I think you know that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I thank you for coming on. I'll kind of give you the floor. What do you got going on and what's next for you?
Well, my biggest thing is I really want a modern day movie, and I'm trying to work on that. This is the first time I'm going to say this. I wrote a synopsis for Law and Order SVU, and it actually was given to Dick Wolf. I never told anybody this, but it was through my lawyer. And it was about a dirty cop. The whole thing I did.
When did you write this?
I wrote it on my violation. On my 4-month violation. I wrote it and I gave it to Doug, and Doug gave it to Dick Wolf because one of Dick Wolf's actors is Doug's clients. He says, give this to Dick Wolf. It's from one of my people, told him who I was, and they liked it. But what happened was I threatened to kill a woman. They said, all that shit when they looked me up, and they kind of like brushed it under the table. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was true. I was trying to get into that world, and then I did something else where Doug had another thing going on for me, and that violation of what I was in trouble for got everybody like, no. You know what I mean?
Well, I think down the road, I think we'll probably see you again at some point, maybe through consulting on something or whatever. Right. Maybe we'll have to at some point get you up to New York and do something, sit down. We'll sit down and speak to you again and see how your life's going. But Gene, thanks for coming on. Is there anything you want to leave us with? You promote your book or anything?
Yeah, Born in the Life. It's top selling organized crime right now. Book. It's been top 50 now for like a while. It just keeps selling. I think I sold like almost over 5,000 copies, which is unheard of. Right now, I sold myself 400 autograph copies myself. It's a very popular book, and I think because I'm the first modern day guy to come out, I think the Johnny and Gene show helped it a lot too. I was very popular on that show, and like I said, right now I'm just living a regular life. I'm out in Florida, and I'm loving it, man.
Do you think in 2040 there'll still be a mafia?
No.
Think it will
the gangs, the gangs are taking over. That's all it is. The gangs, cartels, they're the new mafia, but ran like a bunch of assholes. They just shoot each other for no reason.
Thanks for coming on, Gene. I appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. There. Take care, man.
As always, thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next week here on the Sit Down.